Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Unstoppable Marketer Podcast. With me, as always, is Mark Goldhart. Mark Goldhart, my lovely co-host. What's up, brother?
What's up, dude? I'm excited to be here. I always am, though.
You always are, and you always say that.
I do.
I miss your long hair.
Oh, I know. I was debating whether I'm going to grow it out again.
Normally
It's kind of at the
winter.
length where I kind of got to commit to it now, or I just got to cut it.
Okay. I haven't been to that point in 11 years.
11 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was 25 when
it left you.
When I just said, like,
R.I.P.
done with it.
R.I.P. Trevor's hair.
Yeah, Trevor's hair. Now I just have sticklets.
The sticklets?
Yeah, that's what my kids call it.
Looks good.
My sticklets.
Looks good, though.
Yeah. Well, dude, I'm excited for today's episode.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a spicy one.
I hope it's a spicy one.
He seems like a spicy man.
I would say he's a spicy man.
I don't know if he likes spicy food. We'll find out, though. But
yeah, we'll see here. Well, let me introduce him. He's just been hanging out patiently listening. It's like, these guys are so stupid. But anyway, I want to introduce Charley Titchener. Wait, no, I said it wrong.
That's good.
You say it. I said it right. Titchener, right? Okay, my gosh.
Yeah,
Your face
sure.
made me think I said it wrong. Charley Titchener.
I just wanted you to say professor.
Oh, wait, Professor Charley Titchener, who is the founder of Disruptor School and also several partners in other e-commerce businesses and everything. Marketer extraordinaire. Found Disruptor School, like all about helping people find success and less stress with digital marketing, right? That's the tagline right there.
Yeah, more success, less stress. Let's make money. Facebook is easy. Like, you should be spending the rest of your time on your business and figuring things out and enjoying life, not pushing buttons. You should make more money, not work harder. The harder you work, the less money you'll make. Like, Facebook is never, I've been spending millions of dollars, sometimes millions a day on Facebook for over a decade. I can unequivocally say it has never been this easy.
And that's what's so funny about that like comment is you are hearing the exact opposite from everyone else. Like no one says that.
Yeah. Describe that to us.
That.
Why is the overall sentiment that it's never been harder, but you're saying it's never been easier?
Well, because I think most people don't lean into the machine. Most people define their success as the amount of credit they can take. And I think most marketers have a background. Their education comes from a model where you have to prove your value based on what you can show on a piece of paper. And there is an inherent lack of alignment when you are motivated by performance. An ad agency, their job is to get you to sign that second contract after 30 days or 3 months. That's their job. That's their business model. Don't get fired in 90 days. After that, every call is don't get fired on this call. If you're inside of a brand, your job, your goal isn't to not get fired. It's to grow the business. And I've been in ad agencies. I was supervisor at Omnicom like almost a decade ago. We're seeing like CBS Television and Henkel with like all those brands, working with Nissan and Apple and Activision and all of that stuff. I've also been on the brand side, growing brands like 310 Nutrition and My Life and Under Outfit, and famously took them from $50K a month to $1 million or $2 million a week. There are skills on both sides, but sadly, I think the vast majority of marketers learn from other marketers that market for other people professionally. So the misalignment of incentives represents a lion's share of the people that teach. So basically, most people learn from folks that don't actually care if a brand is successful. And so those selfish motivations become the foundation of what most people think have value. And I get a lot of beef from people constantly because I say things like ROAS is, I have shirts that say like, fuck ROAS.
Yeah.
Now that super offensive if you're an ad agency that bills on attributed revenue. Because it's not that I'm saying you as a person are bad. It's not that I'm saying you as a person have no value. But psychologically speaking, your id, your ego, your super ego, right? Like down when you get down to that level. We're getting to like Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
When I say the thing that you define your self-worth on your ability to do has no value, people will take that as me saying a slight against you, when instead it's an opportunity to level up what you can contribute. And I think there is a giant a crevasse between the people that are willing to do as best they can for the bottom line of the finance department in a brand, and people who are trying to define their value on how much credit for the work they can take. And the honest truth is, my job is to teach people how to be more successful and to make this easy. And overwhelmingly, that looks like making Facebook look worse on a piece of paper. And I'm okay with that.
Okay, so let's dive into that. Making Facebook look worse on a piece of paper, but the business does better.
Sure.
Now I have my opinions on this, but you're our guest, so I want you to explain to our listeners what you mean by that, because our listeners are probably familiar with metrics like ROAS or ROI or even an MER, whatever you want to look at, right? And then the new kind of hot topic is contribution margin or
Sure.
profit dollars, whatever.
Yeah.
So explain your perspective of what that means by sometimes it looks like Facebook is doing worse, but the business is doing better, but you're not necessarily decreasing spend or capping Facebook, right?
Sure.
So explain that model.
So there's one thing to say I'm going to get the best ROAS. There's one thing to say I'm going to get the best contribution margin. There's one thing to say that I'm going to find my success on the attributed actions from my ads. There's another thing to say Facebook is a terribly inefficient bottom of funnel engine. And business models should be amplified by Facebook. The business model shouldn't be use Facebook to make money. Facebook ads don't make sales. Like your website makes the sale. Your customer journey, if your product is good, people come back and buy again. That's revenue. All Facebook does, it's like the billboard. It's the carnival barker. It gets you in the tent. The rest of your business is how you make money. And I think one of the biggest issues is people look at, well, this Facebook ad got this CPA or this CAC or this contribution margin, whatever. So this is good for me. My pushback is, what about every other channel? Like I saw something today where somebody put up a LinkedIn post and they were like, saying this one thing in your video will kill your ROAS. And my comment was, the easiest way to kill ROAS is to stop running search and stop running email because your Facebook will look terrible. Right? Like Facebook is the front end to a customer journey. But more importantly, it's generally top or mid funnel to a purchase. That purchase is the beginning of a customer journey with your brand.
Yeah.
Too many marketers look at their success and failure as the ability to acquire that first transaction. They're salespeople. I like to make the analogy that's like being a hunter. You live and die by your ability to kill more calories than you exude in a daily basis, right? It takes you 5,000 calories to kill something, but it's 6,000 calories to eat, you don't die today.
Right.
But if you're a farmer, you can feed 1,000 people for the same amount of calories. And if you can grow like 1 ear of corn, might be able to enough, have a meal or whatever. But if you take 3 of those seeds, put it in the ground, in 90 days, you're going to have 2 to 4 pounds of fruit. It becomes fractional banking, and you can grow geometrically if you start to look at your sales as e-commerce is lead generation. That first sale isn't actually the value of the customer. The value of the customer is, can you get the best transactions? Can you acquire the profitable customer journeys where you understand the cash flow and the value of that customer? If I know, for instance, it costs me $40 between COGS and CPA to make a sale. And let's say it's $50. And let's say the AOV on that transaction is roughly $80. Now you might say, hey, great, it's cost me $50 to make $80, that's phenomenal. And somebody else might come, well, I can actually get that down to $40, I can get that down to $35. by promoting other offers. But what if I know that 50 average blended CPA across the entire customer journey actually translates to, say, 2.5 transactions? Now, let's say that first so that means that in all, I'm paying maybe $125. And if the AOV is 80, that customer is basically worth 200. So I'm basically paying $125 in CPA and COGS to acquire $200 in revenue. Now that's a blended CPA across all transactions, across all channels. What if it's actually $90 on the first sale on Facebook? So I lose $10. But I know over the next $35 of investment, I'm going to make 2 more transactions that are worth it. Now, let's say I also know that customer buys roughly every 90 days. Well, maybe I have to break even until day 90. And then on day 91, let's say 10% of customers buy again. Well, my CPA drops by 10% overnight.
Yep.
In another 90 days, my CPA drops again. So I can tap into that fractional banking. The point is, media buyers are defining their successes. Can I drive a lead at less cost than the lead is worth? Even if it's e-commerce, because that first sale is nothing more than a lead to a customer journey with additional transactions. And so ultimately there's this misalignment of objectives. And when you see thought leaders putting in these ideas of any sale I can make below this number is good if it's on Facebook. And then they set up these constraints to make sure that you just get that thing. The most popular constraint these days is cost caps. And look, don't get me wrong, I'm not against cost caps. The cost cap bro culture is quite literally taking the blueprint that I did in a case study 6 years ago in the Facebook Disruptor group with brands like Purple and Smile Direct Club and 310 Nutrition. Like their entire business model is the icing on like the cupcake of an entire 5-course meal. And I wrote the entire playbook 6 years ago. The problem is when you're only focusing on profit margin per transaction, and you're not taking into account future cash flow or volume, the media buyer looks good and good and good. They look better and better until the company goes out of business.
Well, yeah, until they're not growing, right?
Yeah, because
exactly.
A lot of these times, the companies suffer the more they try to make their least valuable, their least profitable channel more profitable. At the end of the day, if I know my Google search and my email are phenomenally profitable, and then I look at my Facebook to say, how much of my profit margin per transaction of all blended cost am I willing to invest in acquiring more volume for my profitable channels? What is that profitable margin with which I can scale my business? Something I call profitable scaling margin. I know exactly how much percentage I can increase my investment if I lose every penny of it and still make money. And even if my Facebook looks bad, but I've improved my volume of sales on Google by 20%. I mean, I'm getting 15% more email addresses. My email open rate goes up. My organic direct improves because also tracking is complete nonsense.
Yeah.
Then really, me trying to get a 3x ROAS on Facebook means I'm getting 1/5 of the volume on email and search. The better Facebook looks, the worse the business will do. Yeah. To an extent, right?
Sure.
And it's not saying we'll just make
tracking
Facebook look
is
terrible.
Useless.
Yeah.
How dare you?
Like the concept that you could say this ad made this sale is obtuse, and I don't mean this to be derogatory, but I think the most appropriate word for it would be ignorant. There's no way you can say this ad is the reason that sale happened. Like I bought a pair of shoes. Is it because I saw an ad? Sure. But also, why did I see that ad? So I used to run New Balance. Not like I wasn't the CEO, but I ran all the media, right? We did studies with Facebook, the auction and delivery team and the measurement teams. And 2/3 of our first impression was to somebody that had abandoned cart within the last 7 days at Nike and Saucony and Adidas and Reebok. And generally, the reason you're seeing, say, the end of January, the reason you're starting to see sneaker ads is because Facebook for the last 15 years has seen your buying behavior both on Facebook and with your credit card and where your phone has been physically. That more or less at the end of winter, beginning of spring, every 2-3 years, you buy trainers. and you've been searching for these items and you've been landing on pages that have the metadata of all these individual items. So if I know what your behavior is going to be because you've shown it to me for over a decade, odds are the ads that you would like to see that are of value to you so that you stay on the platform for longer, which is ultimately Facebook's business model, is going to be showing you products that you're interested in buying so that it doesn't just look like spam. Yeah. So with broad targeting alone.
And as a former junkie, you know about needing a product for longer.
Absolutely. Right? I mean, I have like 11 years clean now, but like, yeah, like, I mean.
Which also, by the way, that's amazing.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate
Absolutely.
That. So my point to all of this is the customer journey to make a transaction. People say, oh, I have a long consideration period. It's like 10 days. My attribution window won't work. It's 15 years. Like, you didn't buy shoes because you saw an ad. You've been wearing shoes for 30 some odd, 40 some odd years. The point is, the algebra of the trillions of touch points that get you to want to make a sale today is fundamentally different for every single person. And the touch points that even have with your own ads in your own ad account are individual to a point where you cannot project any future behavior based on any past data.
Yeah.
I cannot say this ad is the reason you made a sale. All I can say is when it's the 5th Girl Scout that knocks on your door today that says, if you buy candy, I'll leave you alone, eventually you buy it. And that girl that's the 5th one, she's not the best salesperson. Right? Yeah. It's like when you buy a car, that guy that sells you undercoating for like $500 that you're signing the contract, he's not the best salesperson, but he's making $500 at 20, 30, 40 times a day.
Yeah, it's the same. I mean, it's the same concept of like a game-winning shot in a basketball game. Like, how many times does somebody who is not the best player on the team who made the most shots make the game-winning shot? But all the focus is on that person.
But there's also like 47 and a half minutes of other gameplay, right?
Yeah.
Like, really the play that won the game was 12 minutes in on some defensive bout, right? Like,
yeah.
You can't put the credit on the thing that puts you, or a football analogy, the thing that crosses the goal line. Yeah. That's not the reason you got there. It's a piece. So the point of attribution as like who can take credit for what is complete nonsense. And when you build your value off of, I can take credit for more sales at the end of the funnel. I mean, that's Critio's business model. And they almost went out of business because basically everybody's like, retargeting is not a legitimate form of incremental lift. And more or less, that's basically what cost caps are doing for 90% of folks that use them when they use them as their sole campaign type. Now, there are a couple of other brands where they're able to get by because basically they're just Amazon stores that went onto Shopify and they're just hitting the total addressable market. But that's the exception to the rule.
Okay, here's my theory I want to run by you because I've been running this for a while now, right? Because everyone wants to talk about consideration periods, like you were just talking about. So I agree with a lot of your premise here because, a brand might say, hey, I need to do X, Y, and Z because how many customers said our consideration time is like 3 months or 7 days or whatever the consideration time might be, right? And I think brands need to think about the pain point period, not the consideration period. It doesn't matter how long somebody's considering a product. It matters if you actually can present to them the solution to whatever their pain is in the right moment. Yeah. It doesn't matter if Nike presented something 10 months ago to somebody, right? It matters if in the moment they saw LeBron James shoes or whatever it was that motivated them in the moment to say, okay, there it is. Yes, sure. There's a ton of compounding factors here in somebody's decision, but does it really help a brand to try to unravel that algebra, like you're saying? Or does it just help a brand to say, hey, like when I run these ads and I trust and lean into the algorithm to place them in front of people who are experiencing that pain point based off of their search behavior, Instagram behavior, whatever it might be, then I can see the biggest lift in new customer acquisition.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I'll say this. I think people fundamentally misunderstand what Facebook does and their business model. I think they look at Facebook ads. I've seen a lot of, there's one guy, and again, I'll try to not take shots today. I'm trying to be a good guy. We'll see how long it lasts. New Year's resolution, right? But there's a really popular guy that has his own set of courses and agencies and stuff. And he closed one agency and opened up a new one last year. And he's a DR copywriter, DR marketing, all this stuff, make the sale happen. The problem is when you do basically hard sales and you focus on predictive bidding models, you're only going after the folks where that's going to be most efficient, which means that your CPMs are going to go way up and you're effectively going to reach a smaller group of people far more often that are already in the funnel to potentially want to make the purchase. And to your point about that pain point, it's not about getting the ad that makes the sale. It's about having the ad that gets shown to somebody when they're in market. And the way that you can make sure that you are shown to the most people that are of the most value is make content that people want to see. And so if you can produce content that gets shown to people based on their quality of user experience, when you align your business model with that of your business partners, you're going to see success. And I think one of the things that people don't understand is like, you know, they say the average person swipes basically the height of the Eiffel Tower on a daily basis. The ads at the top of the feed above the fold are cheaper than the ads below the fold. Like the ad that you see 15 minutes into a doom scroll on the toilet on Instagram, significantly more expensive than the thing you see right when you open up. And why is that? Because the content that makes you want to stay for 15 minutes is content that the platforms want to show to more people. And the way they do that is they charge you lower CPMs. Basically, if your content is a liability to their business model, that is shown as higher frequencies with higher CPMs. And if your frequencies are over, in general, 1.0 to 1.1, 1.15 on a daily basis, if you're looking at frequency over a week, that's basically a complete nonsense metric. But on a daily basis, that means you're more or less top of funnel. 15% max of your impressions are retargeting people that day. If it's 0.15 to 0.2, 0.25, you're more or less mid-funnel. That means 25% of your ad spend is going to people seeing that individual ad more than once today. They're being retargeted today. If it's over that, that means Facebook would rather show your ad to 40, 50, 60, 70% of the same people over and over again instead of showing it to different people. And at the end of the day, there are places for different types of advertising, but if you want to grow your business and amplify your business model, it's very difficult to do that by only showing ads to a very limited select group of individuals who are, the vast majority of them have already made the decision to say no and pay a much higher fee to reach that much smaller group of people far more often. If your business model is to create harm to Facebook users and disrespect their business model, then the only justification you have is, well, my business only works by taking credit for getting a sale efficiently according to an attribution model that we've agreed upon. And at the end of the day, like I've worked at brands, you know, very, very large businesses, right? And I've worked with a lot of folks that have done all sorts of stuff. You know, I've had former folks that I've worked with, you know, Guthrie Ranker, and like massive operations. I've seen $100,000 a month SaaS products to figure out multi-touch attribution for years. And every single time, the end game is the attribution model that makes every VP of marketing keep their job. That's it. What you really have to do is say, what is this platform's business objective? Facebook's business objective, overwhelmingly so, is to amplify your business model. Now, there are a couple of exceptions, and I'll give credit where it's due. Cody Plofker of Jones Road, he can run cost caps all day because his mom is Bobby Brown. She is the Tom Brady of makeup. Anytime she goes on the internet, it goes viral. Facebook isn't the tip of the spear for the acquisition of attention. It's a mid or bottom funnel platform to monetize that attention that was earned in another place. Ash from Obvi, love them. They're in Walmart. Like, if you're not in Walmart, like, there's a tip of the spear for market share that Facebook doesn't have to do. So they're more effective at being able to leverage different tools. And because we know that forcing ads onto people, forcing bad impressions and bad user experiences raises your cost, That's where the concept of ad fatigue comes, because basically Facebook's like, we ran out of people. You've pissed off so many people with this thing. We're just going to stop serving it. And you get priced out of the market. So then you bring in new things. Brands that intrinsically have the ability to just pump out a ton of creative, generally brands with very strong in recent years, core and affiliate and influencer and TikTok marketing, can outpace that depreciation by just launching more and more new content. But then you're completely avoiding Facebook's unfair advantage. Like, Facebook's single biggest unfair advantage in the marketplace not is that it has the biggest user base, but it is the single smartest machine learning algorithm to condition human behavior that we've ever seen on the face of the planet. If you're changing your ads constantly, you're rejecting the single greatest power of the tool and instead trying to leverage it in the way that you would search or Amazon. And to be fair, search, Amazon, like, their business model is you go to the website, you look for what you're trying to find, you get it first thing, and you're off in half a second. Like, a perfect Google session is less than 1 second long. If you can do that, you're getting all the delivery in the world. If people saw your ad and left Facebook within half a second every single time, you'd never be able to advertise again.
Yeah. So
there's a misalignment of strategies. And ultimately, I think I've said that a few times, so maybe I'll stop trying to use that. But I'll end on this point, on this like tirade, as it were, whatever it is, this soliloquy. A lot of the folks that are thought leaders now learned in 2016, 2015, 2017. Facebook made a shift from being random distribution. Facebook was a dumb version of Google Display until around 2017, 2018, when they introduced advanced matching, the Power 5, broad targeting. And I was lucky enough to be part of the disruptor group and really define a lot of the best practices for CBO and cost caps and dynamic creative and all of that stuff that came in. Like, I was on the front end of those teams. There were other people that worked on other things, but those are the three things that I really got into. And the point of that is those folks learned from people who rose to places of prominence and success by being very good at CPC platforms. And their strategies, even to this day, are CPC based. They're inventory and demand based platforms based metrics, right? Like, we've seen, Zach Stuck put out this thing of like, I care about CPC, and it was this huge thing. Well, that's basically an email, right? Or a search metric. But if you care about CTR, that's an email or search metric. Conversion rate, that's an email or search metric. That has nothing to do with how Facebook works. And so because they learned in an environment that no longer exists, and they rose to a place of prominence to the point where they're no longer executing, their ability to understand what's happening with hands-on keyboard, if you stopped really running your own ads in 2018 and you didn't need to be successful at it, or maybe 2019, 2020, and you weren't taught the shift, then you're still looking at Facebook like it's a dumb version of Google Display from 2014.
Yeah.
And then you're teaching everybody else behind you to do that. And if you do that and also have a business model of underpaying and overworking employees that you poorly train with predatory contracts, you can be successful, because ultimately these high ticket agencies, the $20, $30, $40, $50,000 a month agencies, and we all know who they are. Why do you hire that agency? What is their business model? You're hiring them for one, because you fit this perfect Venn diagram of two things. First, you are successful enough to be able to afford it. And second, you are not big enough to have taken it in-house. And the hit rate of having that brand be successful is pretty high. And for you to be the person on the team when that success occurs is great. The problem is so many of them define their own value, and they say, I'm successful because look what I did with X and X brand. Like,
and so, and what you're advocating for is the value that needs to be defined is the growth and success of the brand, right? And how that value is defined is not just revenue, but total growth and profit, which isn't always efficiency, right? Like,
yes,
you can have better
profit
efficiency at lower revenue, but you can have more profit dollars at higher revenue, but it might look
Yeah.
like bad ad performance.
I would say that's one of the success definitions. I think moreover than anything, that definition of success changes for every brand, to be completely fair. Some are top line, some are bottom line, some are growth. There's a million different business models. Your job as a marketer is you are an investment bank and your boss is the finance department. If you're not aligned with their needs, then you ultimately sit at odds with the success of the business. And I've dealt with businesses where like they can't scale. So their reason for marketing is market share, inventory management, efficiencies. Like they're just at a spot, you know, but that's not an option for them, right? Maybe it's handmade goods. Like I can only make 100 of these things, whatever it happens to be. And their definition of success can be wildly different than a brand that's like an information product that's infinitely like a SaaS company that's infinitely scalable.
Yeah.
Right.
So the problem is I see these dramatic displays of hyperbole where the most popular businesses are the ones that can say they were attached to a rising star and then take credit for that growth. Like if I'm an investment banker and I make a contract with a celebrity chef, and then 2-3 months before we go nuclear, I hire somebody to handle my Facebook ads because I'm too busy. 2 years later, you're not the reason we got there. You're just an employee on the team. Yes, you helped, but it's not because of you.
Yeah.
And I think these people wear that success as a badge of honor about their value. Like when I talk about Under Outfit, I don't say I'm the reason that they went from 50 to 2 million. Felix is a gangster. With 310 Nutrition, I say I was there. I was part of the team that got them from, you know, 3,000 a day to 50,000 a day, from 15 million a year to 100 million. Like I was the person in charge of growth. But I am a member of that team. I'm a cog on that wheel.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest hacks to that was we took Facebook ROAS from 2.5 to 0.8 because we looked at the cash flow analysis and understood how to actually amplify the business model.
Yeah.
Instead of an ego-based media buying metric that has nothing to do with the bank account. Because at the end of the day, ROAS is attributed revenue divided by ad spend. But the sale today isn't just because of the ad spend today. That ad they got a sale today, I mean, it might have been a week long. Let's say it's a 5-day consideration period. There might have been 20 touch points of ads.
Yeah.
And if you stop spending money today, you'll still see sales occur. So like,
Right.
There's no way to say the spend today is because of this thing and the revenue today off that. Like, it is a inaccurate metric divided by a number that has nothing, that is not 100% causational. That's MER. That's ROAS.
Right.
And that's why I say, fuck that. And if that's the way you define your value, then you are clearly misaligned with the objectives of your business partner.
Charley, dude, one thing you've mentioned this. You mentioned this a while back, but you continue to talk about it without mentioning it again. And one of those things is, ROAS is revenue divided by spend, attributed spend, whatever you want it, right? Or attributed revenue, right? It's I spent $1. When did I make that dollar back, and how much more did I make back? But one of the things that you said at the very beginning was like, well, what about the next sale and the next sale, and what about the journey, And that's really where the true story starts to unravel about what you're doing here. Talk to us about how, some of the brands that are listening, some of the people who are going to be listening to this podcast, there's plenty of people who are massive brands, right?
Sure.
We hear from $100 million brands all the time. Hey, we listen to your podcast. I like it. Right. But
Love it.
we also hear from people who are at this, like people who can't afford analysts to figure lifetime value and those things out. Right. They're more of those, like, warriors on their keyboard who are doing everything from finance to, media buying to everything in between. Talk to me about, like, what are some things that brands can do today to better understand what their lifetime value is and what that journey looks like?
I get this a lot when people join Disruptor School, and it's one of the common like onboarding questions I have for like the MBA program. And so I get this all the time from people doing $250,000 and people doing, I had a brand join A brand that's in Target joined like last week. Like, I mean, so like I get it across the board, like you're talking about.
Yeah.
Data points are only as valuable as they are actionable. So let's find the simplest, best version of an actionable insight. People say, well, I don't have the capability of understanding the LTV. All right. Total revenue divided by total customers.
Not to cut you off. I just want to make this point. Insights should be actionable.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's ego.
Otherwise, it's just data
points.
Yeah.
And that make you feel good that you got them.
And a lot of people like to talk about insights, but it's like if you can't do anything about it,
who cares?
Does it matter? Like that's just data points. But anyways, I just have to throw that out there.
The decks I had to put together for like Activision to justify like the $17 million I wasted on Canvas ads and like the level of insight around like this video performed X, Y. It's just these wonderful wall-sized tapestries that like hang in murals and cathedrals of absolute bullshit. That was my job. So anyway, lifetime value. Simplest way to figure that out, total revenue divided by total customers. Cool. Now I know the LTV of my customer. Say, well, I want to know it on this product. Okay, cool. Everybody that bought that product as their first transaction, total revenue of all those customers, added up, divided by how many customers you have. Awesome. Done. You want to know what your purchase cadence is? Great. Go into your store, see everybody that's a repeat purchase. Then get the time when they made their first purchase. Then go onto YouTube and figure out how to do a VLOOKUP table, figure it out in like 10 minutes, copy paste the instructions, and literally just look at the average time difference between the transactions. Done. You don't need more complicated answers than that.
Yeah.
Like, what is my allowable cost per acquisition? Well, what is my COGS? And how much profit do I need to make in a month? And basically,
what
is my overhead?
Costs, right?
Yeah. So it's basically, what are my fixed costs? And then what is my projected volume by like overall cost of goods? And then the gap is basically whatever that number is, that's the difference. I can afford volume, that number divided by the volume, like that gives me my allowable CPA.
Yep.
Done. And then I can add in ad spend and that number goes up. But these are very, very simple metrics that I think people in our space make complicated because either A, they don't understand them well enough to explain it in 5 seconds. And B, their objective is not to make it easy. Well, and that's why I'm all about more success and less stress, because it doesn't need to be more complicated.
I was going to say, and C, we've become so advanced in technology that there's so many pieces of tech that can do all that for you that don't oftentimes actually do that for you.
I mean, if you follow the Excel lady on TikTok or have YouTube, you can solve 95% of these problems. That being said, part of all of this is so that you can enjoy life and then you can contribute and make the world better. I think my goal is to make people happy and provide opportunity for them and their families and provide opportunities for other people. And part of that in my own life is, last year pulled in $1 million personally and had a daughter. And apparently right now my wife needs to leave the house and I got to go watch Little Charley 5. So that is an awkward transition of my way of basically saying, I really appreciate this time, guys. I got to go take care of family. And that's what this is all about. And I love the socks and both of you guys. And
my son will be so excited. For him.
There you go.
And with that, I've got to go. Thank you so much. But this is what it's all for. And you could all say, hey, we built for all sorts of things, but like my daughter needs me and I'm going to go take care of it. So I'll see you later.
Love it, dude. We appreciate it, man. Well, thank you so much. And we'll chat with you later, bro.
All right, man. Thank you. I really do appreciate it. Family duties. See you later.
Family first, bro.
Hey, we got some things to talk about with you over DMs later, though. That are
sounds good.
Very aligned with what you were saying.
I like it. I gotta go.
Okay.
I'll talk to you guys
See
later.
you, brother.
Bye.
Later, dude.
Thank you so much for listening to the Unstoppable Marketer podcast. Please go rate and subscribe the podcast, whether it's good or bad. We want to hear from you because we always want to make this podcast better. If you want to get in touch with me or give me any direct feedback, please go follow me and get in touch with me. I am at the Trevor Crump on both Instagram and TikTok. Thank you, and we will see you next week.